So, on my previous video, we talked about why it's important to stop pandering to women. And I wanted to make clear that what I was talking about in that video is the modern godless woman. So, something I wanted to touch on now is the virtues of a godly woman. So, I think the best way to illustrate this is a Bible passage that my good friend Pano sent me. And this passage, it begins with a mother warning her son not to simp and then explaining to him the virtues of a woman. So the words of Lemuel's mother, it begins, the words of King Lemuel, the utterance which his mother taught him. What, my son? And what, son of my womb? And what, son of my vows? Do not give your strength to women, nor your ways to that which destroys kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes intoxicating drink, lest they drink and forget the law, and pervert the justice of all the afflicted. Give strong drink to him who is perishing, and wine to those who are bitter of heart. Let him drink and forget his poverty and remember his misery no more. Open your mouth for the speechless and the cause of all who are appointed to die. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. She says, judge righteously. So, for people who think that Christians aren't supposed to judge others, that's not true. We're told to judge correctly and righteously. So, it goes on to talk about the virtuous wife, or what makes a woman virtuous. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it. For her profits, she planted a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good, and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hand to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies sashes for the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. So, what this is talking about is the fact that yes, women can be more emotional, and yes, they should submit to male authority in many ways. However, women also are they have their own value. And so I think that that's very important. The female emotions sometimes override like logic and stuff like that. However, that does not mean that a woman doesn't have inherent value. And so I think that when we're talking about in the previous video, stop pandering to women, I want to make clear that what that's talking about is more like the male feminists and the simps. You should not simp. Male feminists are creepy. And we're talking about the modern godless woman who is being robbed of her true value. So I think that that is something to keep in mind, that women they're different from men, and they do have their own unique value. And as that passage said, a virtuous woman, her husband can trust her. He can rely on her for counsel, right? She can give him sound advice. She's able to do things independently on her own, like going out and buying land, as it talked about, which, is really interesting, and making garments, selling them, things like that. And that she kind of takes care of her household. She's not afraid to work with her hands. She gets up early in the morning, sometimes when it's still night out, to work for the betterment of her household. She is always making sure that she's kind to her husband, and that all of her days, and that she is sort of, providing that which he needs, that gentleness, tenderness, kindness, sweetness, the things that he's not going to get when he has to operate in the outside world. So that is the virtues of a woman, a godly woman, a woman who fears the Lord and recognizes not only her husband's authority or the male authority, but God's authority as well. But that doesn't mean that women are not able to do their own thing. Of course they can, and they should. So just to be clear, when we're saying don't pander to women, we're talking about the modern woman that is godless, lost, miserable, depressed. We're not saying that you need to treat women as if they are inferior to men. That's not the case. Men and women are different. They were made different, but they are complementary to one another, and they both need one another.